Welcome to the Management Conversations Masterclass. Often we talk about our management systems of having clear roles, your org chart, your position commitments, having meetings to check in with them, with your team, and dashboards to review. We want to go that next layer down into the nuance, the actual conversations you have with your employees, whether that's giving them praise, whether that's trying to establish a better relationship and clarity, or whether that's giving them corrective feedback or performance management. The quality of these conversations is ultimately going to determine how well your team perform and how enjoyable management is for you, the owner. Great businesses are run on clarity, trust, and accountability. Those are only established in conversations. And many business owners avoid crucial conversations, important conversations, or having the right conversations because their fear of conflict or being labeled as a bad boss or having the bearer of bad news. And so the frameworks I'm going to give you today are going to be able you to show up at your best with the toolkit to have the conversations that are going to get the change in your team that you want and actually at the same time improve the relationship, all the while allowing you to maintain boundaries that make business enjoyable. The macro model we're going to cover today is something called, and this is in your worksheet, is something called the 4 C's. Okay, we want to anchor all of our conversations in these 4 C's. The first one is context. Too often I see new managers in particular, or poor managers in general, jumping into a conversation without letting the person know why they're having the conversation. So context is about what we're going to talk about, why we're talking about it. Okay. The next C is clarity. Clarity, actually being specific. What are you talking to them about? What are you giving them feedback about with absolute specifics, not vagueness, not generalizations, and not emotion. Okay. Here's what I observed. Step 1, 2, 3 is clarity inducing. I'd like you to be a bit more proactive is not. The third C, this is a collaborative exercise. You're having those conversations with your team. You're involved too. You've got to show up. You've got to give something to them. You're solving future problems together. You're helping them come up with solutions. It is collaborative. The last one, definitely not least, is every conversation you have with your team should lead with a commitment. Most definitely from them, sometimes from you too, but it must leave with a commitment. So those are the 4 C's that we're going to anchor our next models in. Before we go into tactically how you're going to have conversations with your employees, I want us to just spend some time together getting good at understanding where our employees are at before we have a conversation and during, but also being able to tell their communication style, where they're coming from, and whether or not that is a productive place to be having that kind of conversation. The first model I want to introduce you to is called the drama stack, okay? Love this one. It's really easy to actually just say, based on what that person is saying, I can see where they sit on this stack. And they're in order of utility. At the bottom, least useful. At the top, most useful. So when people are talking from drama at the bottom of the stack, they're using emotive language. There's lots of blame. There's lots of excuses. They're coming from a place of victimhood. It's easy to spot when you know that you're looking for it. But what I've found about people who love to operate from this place of drama, and I've hired my fair share in my career, is they're actually world-class, super duper at getting you to come down to drama as well, to taking you what I call a conversational snake pit. They drag you in there and all of a sudden you find you're talking about emotions and you're talking as if everything they're saying is true, when it absolutely isn't. So be careful of those people starting from drama. Next level up, let's just go back one step. Nothing happens, nothing good. In fact, if people talk from drama, things get worse. So it's to be avoided at all costs. Next level up is we'll find people are talking about the problem only. I tell you why this won't work. The reason why it's gone backwards. Okay? It's a problem. This is the problem with this. The problem is those kind of sentence starters, very problem focused. That person is stuck. And that's why they need you, the conversationalist, the manager, to get them out. Nothing is happening from problem. Next level above that is detail. This is where people get so much into the specifics that still nothing's going to happen. As a coach, I find this a lot. People are telling me all of these details, and then it was Tuesday, and then at 9 o'clock in the morning, I went there, and then Jenny got in the conversation. The thing you need to know about Jenny is she really likes going to the beach, and it's just all details, okay? And I have to say, hey, is this context necessary? And when we get to that spot where we're noticing that they're stuck in detail, that's where we can go, aha, they're not in drama, they're not in problem, they're actually starting to engage with the thing. So it's a better place to be. The two that really matter, and you want to have all your conversations in these two, is planning and vision. They're at the top of the stack. Planning is, what am I going to do in the future? Vision is, what does the future look like? And so through your questions, you can move people up. Yeah? And you don't want to violently move someone from drama to vision. Doesn't often work that way. People who love to play in that drama space are not, what do you mean? What does the future look like? Okay? They're not going to make that leap most of the time. So you actually just want to move them up one step. I can't believe that I've been trying this for so long and it hasn't worked. What do you think the reason might be? Okay? I'm actually getting them to move to problem. Okay, I can hear the problem. What are the specifics? Walk me through how the last time you approached it. Then they're giving me details. Okay, so I'm asking that question there. Then I'm going, okay, it sounds like we need to make some changes. Next time, what specific changes might you make? Oh, now they're into planning. And then I could get them to vision by saying, how do you think you're going to feel? What does your world look like once you solve that, once that plan is put into action? Oh, I'm going to be so excited because then I'll be able to. That's what we're trying to do with the drama stack. Now, if you've ever had an employee that you've been trying to have a deep conversation with, and it may not be necessarily negative, but you try to have a deep conversation, they just don't give you anything. Yeah, it's all right. No, everything's good. Or they feel very defensive. What do you mean? You don't like it. When you're getting that type of person, very shut down, very away, emotive, and it's feeling like it's difficult, what I urge you to do is check in on which trigger you might have pressed. Okay? Because remember, we want to take complete responsibility here. Responsibility means I have the ability to change, to do something in any situation. I'm able to respond. And so the model here, there's five triggers that we want to avoid. They make the acronym SCARF. All right? So the first trigger, the S in SCARF, is status. We don't want to threaten the status of our team. We don't want to diminish them in our eyes. We don't want them to feel diminished amongst their team or our customers or our stakeholders. It's a basic human need, is status. We want it, we crave it, we value status. So just make sure that our language, our style, our choice of when and where we have these conversations doesn't diminish their status. The next one is C, certainty. I'm definitely myself guilty of violating this one. Is you announce things, you change your mind, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, when it was all a whim and everything like that. You don't want to pull the rug out from under your team. You want to make them feel like that this is going to happen, then that's going to happen, that changes aren't just going to come afoul, that their job is safe. Because for some reason, employers are like, oh my God, that means that, and then I might not have my job. People want certainty. So SCA now is for autonomy, all right? And this is how people want to feel in control, all right? Don't take away their control. Someone was doing something and all of a sudden you just take it back off them. You've taken away their autonomy. And that's going to trigger that defensive, that emotion, that shutdownness. R in SCARF is relatedness. People want to feel part of the team. They want to feel included. They want to feel like they matter to everybody else, that they're valued, okay? Relatedness. They want to feel part of something, so don't do anything, have your conversations the way that might feel they're excluded. And the last one is F, dealing with humans. Fairness matters. I wish it didn't, but it does. People care about fairness. So if you're going to come down on someone for something over here, it has to happen over here if you observe the same thing. Now, I just want to be clear on this fairness thing. You must be fair, but that doesn't mean that everybody gets the same. We're not running a communist business here, okay? Your best employees will be 10x your average employees. Give them the promotions, give them the bonuses, give them the perks, okay? But make it clear as to why. If it's just because you like them or they're sycophantic to you, then everyone else is going to notice that, and that's not fair. So you can be fair and a meritocracy, okay? So just before, if we notice our team are not really engaging, come in for this. What buttons could I be pressing along that SCARF acronym? All right, let's get into it. Now we're ready to have these meaningful conversations with our team. And so I want to start with just giving feedback. Feedback goes two ways. There's two types of feedback that we give. We give corrective feedback when someone needs to change something, they're not performing to the standard, whatever that might be, you need to change. And we give positive feedback or praise. Keep doing the thing, I value you. All right, they both have the same 4 ingredients: situation, behavior, impact, and upgrade. There are differences in how we deliver them. Okay, there are differences in how we deliver them. When we're giving praise, we actually tell. We do a little bit of questioning, but we tell. When we're giving corrective feedback, we only favor questions. There are times when you may need to start telling, but we favor questions. So let's start with praise. We want to avoid the really lazy, attaboy, good job, well done, that's awesome. Because what we don't want to do with our team is make their performance about us. And that's what we do when we're non-specific and we're just generalizing good job with our team. We make it about us. They go, oh, I did something and Stephen was happy with me. I want him to be happy with me. I'm going to do whatever makes him happy. We don't want that. That's not autonomy. That's reliance on you. Okay? So that means we've got to follow this model. We got to get specific. So situation, we anchor everything in facts. I noticed that you did this. I noticed that you did that. And I noticed that you did this. That is facts. It's something that happened. You noticed it. You also want to describe behavior. Not only was something done, but how did they do that? I noticed that you spend a little bit more time planning for this project than the last one. I noticed there was a lot more documentation. Very impressive. So that's behavior. Impact, okay? Because of that, we won the tender, which is fantastic. You have made a big impact on the growth of this business. Now, the last part is upgrade. Do they need to just keep doing it? Zone in on what you want them to keep doing, hold on to, do more of, and you're telling them that. So that's how to praise. I also recommend praising in a variety of ways. Okay, praise in public, criticize in private. It's one of my mantras. But also, I like to have a blanket rule. Never finish a day without giving some praise, positive feedback to your team. Do it in a variety of ways. Walk over to them and go, hey, I noticed you've been working really hard on that. Keep it up. But I noticed. Thank you is a really big one. Thank them. Encouragement, do that as well. Text message, email, in person, whatever it might be. Handwritten note. Do it in a variety of ways. Do it often. Because the risk is that we only show up when something's wrong. And that's not a nice place to work, so we don't want to do that. So that's praise. Let's switch gears to corrective feedback. So when we're giving corrective feedback, we have to be aware that no one likes it. You don't like giving it. They don't like receiving it. As much as they say they do, it might be valued, but they don't like it. Okay? Now, the way I see most people do this, they make it way worse than it needs to be. And that's because people give corrective feedback in tell mode. They follow that model that we have, but they just say, I noticed this, your behavior was that, the impacts are, and I want you to do this differently in the future. Nothing has been heard by your employee when you do that. Because you're in tell mode and you're criticizing them and you're doubling down on it, no matter what your style is, how you do it, their brain, their fight or flight response is going to be triggered. They're going to shut down and they want to get through that conversation rather than actually deeply reflect and plan for the future. Once they're out of there, they feel a sense of relief. Okay, they associate the pain of that conversation with you, And they might change a little bit just to make sure that you're gone, but there's no real lasting change. And I've seen this time and time again. So we follow the same structure of the situation, behavior, impact, and upgrade, but we ask questions. Okay? We ask questions. And I like to anchor it in 3 questions. Tell us what happened. Oh, you didn't close the Jones deal. Tell me about it. What happened? What did you try? What was your process? We're asking these questions. We actually want to learn something, yes, but also if they're talking, they're engaged, and they're thinking. That's what we want from them. They're thinking. Then we can switch gears and say, okay, thanks for sharing that with me. Now we didn't get it, and we can tell that it wasn't your best effort. You just told me that. What are the impacts of this? What are the impacts on the business, on the team, on you, on our customers, and get them to explore that. You will notice that they will change emotively when they start discussing the impacts. There'll be a bit of a weight on them. Their voice will drop to a bit quieter. Feel it's emotive in the impact. That's what we want, because they'll change from there. We're still asking questions. We're not telling you go, awesome, yeah, I agree with all of that. Now, we've got an opportunity here. What are you going to do on the next one? How are you going to make sure this doesn't happen again? What are you going to do to fix it? These are the upgrade the plan questions. And we're starting to direct them towards creation. And that's positive. You can shape that and give them some guidance on it. But what's happened is you've had a conversation where you're not the bad guy or girl. They don't associate negative feedback with you. They don't actually see it as negative feedback. It's been a discussion. They've talked a lot. You've just asked questions. They are more likely to change. Please use it. Stop telling. Ask questions when giving corrective feedback. Okay, let's talk about your particular style when you have conversations with your team. There's 2 places that you don't want to be. You don't want to be too soft. It's just ruinous empathy. Okay? I get why you're doing it, but it doesn't benefit anybody. And this is the distinction between kind and nice. Nice in these conversations stands for, it's an acronym, is nothing inside me cares enough to tell you what you need to hear. So nothing inside me cares enough. I want you to be kind, which is I'm going to allow you to see what you need to see, to hear what you need to hear, to have the realization that you need to have in order to get better. It might be difficult, it might be uncomfortable, but I'm doing it for the long term, not just the short term pain avoidance that nice is. So we don't want to be too soft. The other thing is we don't want to be too hard. Okay? When we're too hard, it's harsh, unclear, unpredictable. You don't get respected. You might get feared, but not respected. Okay? So we want to be somewhere in the middle. And so this comes from a book called Radical Candor. And it's this combination of high care and high directness. Okay? And so our conversations when we're trying to improve our team have got to come from the heart. We actually have to care enough about these people to want them to get better, to do the difficult things that are going to improve them, ultimately your business, but improve them as individuals performing in their role. So when it comes from that place, I want this person to get better. I want them to stop telling themselves this bullshit. I want them to get out of their own way. There, you will show up with the right energy. They will feel the care. Then when you layer in directness, talk about the thing that needs to be talked about. Don't shy away from reality. Confront the brutal facts. Play in the realm of reality. Those 2 things together are going to make power and magic happen. Right? So practice radical candor, high care, high directness together. And leveraging off this high care, high candor, leveraging off that, I want us to stop using the phrase difficult conversations. They're powerful conversations. They're important conversations. They're creative conversations. They're cool conversations. These are difficult conversations. They're difficult if you make it. And if you label it that, you're more likely to make it that. So when we have these powerful conversations, what we want to make sure is that we don't get stuck talking about feelings, but we do acknowledge the person. If they are upset, if they are emotional, we need to acknowledge it and we need to help them get out of that state. But we want to anchor the conversation in facts. And the majority of the conversation, we want it to be forward focused, playing a future focused game. And so talking about the future is probably the easiest. And if we follow 80-20, it'll give you 80% of the results from 20% of the inputs. And follow on even further 80-20, let's just make a rule that 80% of your conversations with your team are going to be future focused. If you find that majority of your conversations are talking about the past, what happened, why did it happen, it will deteriorate the relationship, nothing changes. Focusing on the problem creates more of the problem. So we're going to focus on the future. Now, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. You are going to have employees that are not going to come to the party. They're not going to engage in the conversation the way that you expect. They're going to keep up the poor performance, missing standards, dropping the ball. And you're well within your rights to set a boundary. And when you're setting boundaries, can't be questions, it must be tell. Feedback, corrective feedbacks with questions, but boundaries is all tell mode. And it's really what you're doing is saying, hey, I've observed this and it can't happen anymore. This is the line in the sand. Going forward, this is what I expect. If not, we are going to be having a conversation about your performance and your employment here. You are well within your rights to have that conversation. You don't want to have it too many times, but if you don't, when people really overstep the boundaries, take the piss, are behaving and performing in a way that is counterproductive to the success of your business, it's your job to step up and set those boundaries. Do it from a place of high care, but do not mince your words and do it directly, and then start getting focused on the future and what needs to happen. And if they can't get online and can't get in line, can't get on board, and still keep violating your boundaries, they can't stay with you. And that's a topic for another video, is firing well. So let's just recap what we've talked about here. We've gone to this level that the conversation matters because that's where all management happens. And we have that overarching framework. We're telling them why we're having the conversation. We're talking about specifics. We're doing it together. It's a two-party thing, and there must be commitments coming out of them. We've looked at some ways to actually check in of where our employees are, where our team are, their emotional state before and during the conversation. So we can work out where they are, we can move them into a better place to have the conversation. And we've looked at how to give feedback, both positive and corrective, using that model, but then also understanding that we're flipping the telling and the questioning. Go in, make full contact, get in with your employees, have more of these conversations. Do it poorly first, because that's what all new stuff looks like, and get better and better. This will make such a huge difference to not only the results, but how you feel about showing up and leading your business. See you next time.